Jim Chalmers and Ted O'Brien have reportedly had a heated exchange over the issue of Labor's spending. Now, this is on day 3 of this economic summit around the cabinet table in Canberra, and the opening session was on fiscal management. So I guess it opened up the door for the debate. I'm told all of this took place in front of the other participants in the Economic Reform Roundtable room, but it seems the room is splitting along rather predictable lines. Business groups, according to Matthew Cranston in the, I think it's the Telegraph today, saying, the Australian rather, suggesting that business groups reckon, yes, well, there does need to be focus on spending restraint. The ACTU rejecting that assessment from what I'm led to believe. So sort of the left-right divide is there for all to see. Although I have to say more broadly, the roundtable's been running now for 3 days, a bit of a closed shop. But nonetheless, one gets the sense that there seems to be a rather lot of agreement and consensus around the table. I wonder if we're getting enough robust debate. I mean, after all, it's nothing less than the future economic management of this country that we're looking at. Ted O'Brien is the shadow treasurer. I don't know if I suppose he's in the blue corner fighting the red corner in this way. He's on the line with me. Ted, good afternoon.
How are you going, Michael?
I'm okay. They've towelled you down, and I think Daniel Mookie put on the referee's outfit and sort of rang the bell and everything. So it's all sort of calmed down in there. But what was it all about?
Well, I mean, I've been pretty clear in attending Labor's roundtable that I'm not there for them. I'm not there for the 25 other people in that room. I'm there for the 27 million Australians who have been struggling, and they've been struggling big time over recent years. And a big reason why Australians have been struggling is the government has been overspending, and they just have to stop the spending spree. And in the room today, the budget was discussed, and I just refuse to be a bystander. I'm not going to sit there nodding my head as the Treasurer waxes lyrical, suggesting that actually he's been disciplined. Australian families have been disciplined, and all the data says it, Michael. Australians have been living within their means. This government has blown spending out of control. So if you compared this year's budget of the Albanese government to the last year of the Coalition's budget, well, there's $160 billion extra in spending, $160 billion. So that means that's the equivalent of around $16,000 extra being spent per household in Australia.
And does that even include, Ted, obviously the inflated expenditure by the Coalition because of the COVID policies? That's on top of that even?
Yeah, exactly. This is comparing our last year in office of the Coalition to, after 3 years now of Labor, what's this financial year's spend. And this is why we are going to hit $1 trillion in debt this year, and that will go to $1.2 trillion by the next election. And Michael, you know what? In fairness, it's not you and I who'll have to pay for that. It is our kids, our grandkids. This is basically putting it on the next generation. This government has racked up an additional $100 billion in national debt. So that's almost $4,000 for every man, woman, child in this country. And this roundtable, the Treasurer made it very clear he wants to hear ideas that are preferably all about bringing more money into the government. But the government has no rules to constrain their spending. And that was the point I put this morning.
Yeah.
Households are doing the right things in Australia. The government needs to start doing the right thing. The government needs to start living within its means. And that starts by applying some rules, some discipline to how you spend other people's money.
Well, I think that's fair enough. People
Jim Chalmers didn't like that.
People listening need that. Mind you, I mean, Jim Chalmers and the Prime Minister by extension would be in that room saying, well, you know, we've got an increased majority. Very, very rare that happens for a second-term government, but we've now got 94 seats. Ted and, you and your colleagues are down to 50-something, 54 or whatever. You know, we've got the march, the people are with us, and, I mean, that'll be their thinking. And that $1 trillion figure that you raised, which is right, it is a bipartisan effort. Both the Labor Party and the Coalition added to that sum. The Australian public want to know what anyone in Canberra is going to do to get that back down to zero as quickly as possible. It doesn't seem anyone's got a plan to do that.
Well, the first thing that Labor should have done which we would have done, is they had this windfall. Because of the terms of trade, basically our resource sector, in the last few years, a record windfall of money came into the government they weren't expecting. Yeah. And so all of that should have gone to paying down the debt. But they didn't do that. Instead, they thought they'll just, dip their hands in it and start spending. And that's what they've done, which is why we've seen both debt continue to climb, but also expenses on the budget go up. And this is the problem when you don't have any discipline, right? So that's the first thing that should have been done differently. The thing that should be done moving forward is they need to introduce some rules that can be calculated and measured. And so previously, we had rules around, a percentage of tax to GDP. You can have rules around spending to GDP. Things that basically you say to the public, Australian people, this is your money, not ours. And here are the rules so we are doing the right thing with your money. This is basically us putting some rules around our own spending. And you can hold us to account on that. Now, the former coalition government had rules, but Jim Chalmers threw those rules out. So he has no constraints right now, zero. And this is the problem.
And the books are showing it. The books are showing it. This is a bit technical, but while I've got you here, I'll ask you. The off-budget expenditure seems to be one of the big problems because obviously, even if it's off-budget, something's still paying for it. And the taxpayer's always the collateral. So you've got the NBN, you've got all these schemes off-budget as if somehow they're budget neutral or they're an investment. Well, I mean, no one would buy the NBN for a month of Sunday. So I don't know how it still qualifies. But this is all sitting over there. The taxpayers, the collateral for all of that, both sides dabble there. I mean, would the coalition say, look, enough of that nonsense, that sort of sleight of hand trick, we'll have none of this off-budget stuff. It's either in the budget or it doesn't happen.
Michael, I made a very similar point this morning where there was an exchange between the Treasurer and me along similar lines. I basically said the use of off-budget spending is also out of control. I mean, not only is on-budget spending through the roof, they're spending more than what's been spent for literally generations in Australia, but they're also hiding other spending off-budget. So it looks as though they're not running as big a deficit as they really would be.
I mean, good luck for a household going to the bank. I mean, the analogy is good luck for a household going to the bank trying to get the mortgage and say, oh, yeah, well, I know all of these things over here are off budget, but that's off budget. Don't worry about that. That's not real. You don't have to worry about that.
You can't see it. You can't see it.
Good luck.
But you still have to pay for it. And again, who's paying for it? Well, the next generation. They're the ones who are going to have to pay for it. And so they need to also have discipline with that off-budget part. I made that point this morning, Michael. Again, the Treasurer didn't like it.
We've only got a minute, and I thank you for calling in. But all this 3-day conversation, you've been there observing a lot of it. Has anyone raised the salient point about duplication between the states and the federal government? I mean, there's always talk about what we might do with the GST or this or that. But when you look at what the federal government do and then the state government do, more often than not, they're stepping on each other's toes. And, of course, each have their respective public services. They all cost money. Again, it's the same taxpayer that's collateral for the lot. I mean, has anyone said, why don't we go back and have a federation roundtable instead of an economic roundtable and work out what the Commonwealth should do and what the states should do and not have all this duplication? Ted, we would save billions per annum if we ironed that out.
Oh, we sure would. And I have to say there have been some really valuable contributions around the table, including on issues of federation. I mean, an example is if you want to have a battery, let's say, a battery transported from WA to Melbourne, you need 3 separate permits. So in order for it to go over one state border, you need to show the permit. You need to go get another permit. And here you just have this duplication of process. And then you've got, if you're a national company, I'm dealing with payroll tax. I mean, how many times you got to fill it out? And so a lot of these issues have been raised, and that's a good thing. And so we need to deal with some duplication of federation. We need to deal with reducing regulations.
Yep.
The point I've said to the government on this is I think there's great ideas around the table, but the government must commit to targets to reduce regulations, and they must be time-bound.
Okay.
Because, again, that's the only thing that'll force action rather than it just being a talk fest.
I've got to go. I've got the news. Thanks for calling in. We'll speak again soon. Ted O'Brien, the Shadow Treasurer.